Okay, thanks for joining us, everyone. We got our good friend Margot Starbuck here with us. Margot and I go back several years, and we've worked together on several different projects. And I'm very happy to have her here to talk with us about book proposals. But before we do that, Margot, could you give folks a little bit of info on your background?
Yeah. Um, I'm going to start just in 2006. I had three little kiddos. I went to a writing conference. I didn't know myself to be a writer or even much of a reader at that point, and everything in me just came alive. And at that conference that I went to, because I really just needed a break, I remembered that after seminary, there was this book that I really wanted to write. And then I went back further and I remembered the book in third grade that I was really fired up that I was going to write. And then even back as far as 6 years old. So I'll share a little bit about that today. But so that means I'm doing math. About 18 years ago is sort of when my writing journey started. But before that, in undergrad, I had been an art major, and then went to seminary. I started ministry as a chaplain to folks with physical and intellectual disabilities, which I really loved. Um, I served a congregation as an interim pastor for about a moment. And then I have three kiddos by two homegrown, one adopted from India. And again, it's when they were little that I sort of began this writing journey. And for me, that meant that I go to a writing conference, I go to another one, I get a literary agent. And in 5 years, I published five books, and that did not pay the bills. When my life fell apart a little bit, when my husband left, I started doing more things like editing, and I
Okay,
had the
I can hear
opportunity
you now.
to ghostwrite, and that trajectory has sort of continued for me. So I have relationships with publishers. I speak at writing conferences, and I'm doing editing, writing, ghost writing, and I got my own little thing that I'm working on the side. But I just really enjoy the privilege of both writing alongside folks with incredible stories and also this thing that I love to do, which is encouraging writers. And I'm going to name it as nonfiction, helping them take the next step in their journey to publication. So it's fun knowing Brian, who gives me opportunities to do that.
Well, as I said, we've collaborated. I don't even know how many different times. Margot's spoken at several of our conferences. When I led Writing for Your Life, Margot was one of the experts, basically, that I would resell some of her services, like reviewing book proposals and such. And also, Margot contributed the book proposal guidelines that I think to this day you'll still find on the Writing for
They
Life
might be there. They
website. One thing I want to remind everyone too, that I am recording this. A lot of times when we do our Wednesday sessions, I don't record them, but I wanted to do it for this time because I want folks that aren't able to make it to be able to take advantage of Margot's expertise. So with all that said, maybe Margot, would you mind kind of leading folks just through what you consider to be the right outline for a nonfiction book proposal? Well, first, maybe before that, I mean, I don't know. Do you already have a sequence of things planned to
I
talk?
have a plan, Brian. I have a plan.
Okay,
I
all
have
right,
things I
good.
want to say.
All right, let me let you run with it then.
Yeah. So all that to say, no, you can relax. But if anybody has a question, either go like this, or if you're off camera, whatever signal you do, Brian can let me know. But yeah, so what I'd love to do today is to help you see the process toward publication, and specifically that involves crafting a great book proposal. And I think we are going to get the most out of it if you do chime in, because if you have a question, I'm sure that somebody else does as well. If you have seen the movie Hitch, Will Smith plays this New York City date doctor, and he meets these guys who have great characteristics, but who women might overlook for various reasons. But these women would be missing out on great guys. And so Hitch sort of helps them get their foot in the door so a woman can see all that they have to offer. And to do that, he helps these men understand how women think. And today, like, I want to be your Hitch. I want to help you discover how publishers think so that you can deliver what it is that publishers want. So really, I'm just going to share the basics, kind of what you can't not know about pitching your book to a traditional publisher. And at the end, we're definitely going to have time for Q&A. And as far as that book proposal, you can peek at Writing for Your Life website, and you can definitely at margotstarbuck.com. I'll give you I've got a template there for crafting a book proposal. Okay, buckle up. There are 3 things that every publisher needs to see in order to say yes to your book proposal. The first, and we're going to go through all of these, but the first is a fresh concept. The second is that the book is attached to a large or a growing platform. That's you. And finally, the book has strong writing. I don't know if it makes you sad that strong writing came last, but it makes me a little sad. And I'm going to say it also grieves the publishers I know who want nothing more than to publish excellent writing, but they do also have to sell books. And that is the reason that platform really matters. Okay, the first is a fresh concept. And I'm going to say this is the fresh, unique, compelling premise of your book. So a publisher is looking for a book that has a unique and compelling concept. I'm going to say, there are these timeless truths, right? Because your book needs to meet a reader's felt need. And so when I say unique and compelling concept, I'm kind of talking about a fresh frame for a timeless truth. You're bringing something to a publisher that makes the publisher say, I haven't heard it that way before. That's what you want, because books that are similar to yours, I promise, they have been written, they're on the market, they're on the shelves at Barnes and Noble, but you want to be offering it with a fresh angle that makes a publisher say, I don't think I've heard it like this before. The second thing is the growing platform, and platform is how you're reaching audiences. I was at a writing conference last week, and word on the street at the conference, like, these writers understood that publishers need to see a platform. They need to see that you're already reaching readers. And I'm just going to say, as I looked across these like 600 writers, like, not a lot were bringing that big platform that publishers want to see. And I say that just to name it as normal. Like, nobody did I share a meal with was saying, ooh, I can't wait to get on social media. I can't wait to grow my platform. It's just, for some of us, kind of a necessary evil that we've got to find a way around. So we'll talk about some fresh ideas to do that. Okay, there's not a magic formula. There are lots of ways to grow your audience, but you do need to show a publisher that you are reaching readers. And finally, you are offering a publisher your strong writing. Your writing captures the reader's attention and keeps them reading with your strong, well-organized content. That serves the reader. This is your job. Your job is to serve the reader. And, as an editor, that's what I'm looking for when I am looking at your book proposal, your writing. I'm saying, is this writing serving your reader? So those are the big 3. And if you're wondering if one of those could be a deal breaker for a publisher, unfortunately, the answer is yes. Sometimes a publisher will take a chance on a really, really strong writer who is growing their platform. But I want you to hear that you're making it easier for a publisher to say yes if you can check all 3 of these boxes. So your book proposal is demonstrating that all 3 of these are strong. If you check all 3 boxes, you make it easier for them to say yes. And if you're missing one of these, you are making it, unfortunately, easier for them to say no. All right, we're going to dig in first to this idea of your concept, where you are articulating a fresh idea for a publisher. Either the publisher or a literary agent needs to see that fresh concept. And generally, I'm going to suggest that you do seek a literary agent. There's a few exceptions. If you find a real small kind of niche publisher, you might be able to approach them directly. But in general, I encourage you to find a literary agent, but they need to see exactly those same three things that a publisher needs to see. What I want you to be able to do for either the agent or the publisher is capture your fresh big idea in a compelling one-sentence premise statement. It's the first thing that you're going to communicate. It's at the top of your book proposal, and you're going to integrate it throughout your book proposal. And this really is the first thing that can set your book apart from others. Your premise statement clearly and succinctly communicates that unique angle you're bringing and also the value that it has for readers. So a persuasive big idea or premise statement does three things. First is that your big idea is clear, it's easy to grasp, it's tight, it's brief. So that means you're not using really big, impressive academic words, unwieldy sentences. It is so simple that you can tell somebody today and they will remember it tomorrow. Your premise is that tight, clear, easy to grasp. Second, you are saying something that other communicators have not already said, other authors have not already written about. When I was at that writing conference in 2006, maybe 2008, there was an editor there named Stephanie Smith, and she's the one who really let me know what it means to be pitching a book with that unique angle. So she says an angle is simply this. It's a fresh frame for timeless truth. She says it's creative, unexpected, a pinch provocative, and able to power up vital conversations people are compelled to join. It is the signature of great writing, and it makes all the difference in standing out beyond overdone, underdeveloped, dime a dozen concepts. She's talking about your unique angle. And Stephanie Smith has a newsletter called Slant Letter. You can find her at slantletter.com, where she's giving you more of those ideas to bring a really fresh concept to a publisher. Okay, I'm the number one rule of good writing is show and don't tell. So I don't want to be just telling you these things. If I were to show you this, I would say a lot of books have been written about my hard childhood and You're Enough, Love Your Neighbor, right? These are vital topics that meet a reader's need. And the fact that these books have already been written does not exclude you from writing about the same subjects, but it does mean that you need to be offering a fresh, clear solution that will serve readers. If you're not making it fresh, it's going to be hard for that publisher to say yes. So just to give you the idea, here are a few kind of big ideas, premises that have that unique and unexpected slant. Writer, I wonder if he's a pastor. He might be a pastor. Anyway, his name's Willie Jolly. This is it. This is his book. This is his premise. A setback is a setup for a comeback, right? So when a publisher hears that, they're like, okay, haven't heard it put quite that way before. A setup is a setback is a setup for a comeback. Another one, if your premise begins, the one secret to a vibrant marriage is XYZ, you're going to have that publisher's attention. My book on beauty and body image is called Unsqueezed. The big idea is the world says our bodies are made to be ornamental, but actually God made them to be instrumental, right? So publishers like, okay, I've read a lot of books about beauty and body image, but this one sounds like it might be a little bit different. So for each of these, that unique angle is the fresh frame for a timeless truth, making the agent, the editor say, huh, haven't heard it like that before. And the tip I want to give you is that you may not always be the best judge of whether your big idea is unique and compelling. So I want you to run it past some honest folks. And these are folks who already kind of know what it is that you're putting out there. You're asking them, do you know of any other books saying the same thing as this one? And I want you to ask them, do you hear anything in what I'm saying that you're not hearing someplace else? What is distinct about my message? Okay, so when you think of this premise that you're offering a publisher, it's tight and it's clear, it is fresh, you're saying something new. And finally, the third thing is that you are offering a solution to solve a reader's problem. You are meeting the reader's need. Because here's what we know. We know that readers buy and read books that meet a felt need. It's so important, I want to say it again. Readers buy and read books that meet a felt need. So that's what a publisher is looking for. They want to know who your reader is and that your book is going to meet the reader's felt need. Because the reason that publishers continue to publish books like My Hard Childhood, You're Enough, Love Your Neighbor is because they're meeting a real need that readers have. I'll talk about real needs. Lose weight, make money, find the love of your life. Those books are going to be bestsellers. No, not necessarily, but those are the felt needs that cause people to buy and read books. You have to be able both to name the reader's need and show the solution that you're bringing to that reader. A strong premise statement should make the agent or the publisher know that you are about meeting the need of the reader, because that's who they're thinking about. Well, the literary agent is thinking about what the publisher wants. The publisher is thinking about what the reader wants and needs. All right. Because of all this, it is critical that you know your reader. Let's say maybe you're at a writing conference and you end up in an elevator with the publisher of your dreams, and they ask about your book and they say, who's the audience? I'm going to tell you what is always the wrong answer. And what is always the wrong answer is everyone, never the right answer. Okay. We know that people buy and read books that meet a felt need. We know that the publisher is thinking about this one reader. I want you to demonstrate to a publisher, not that your book is for everyone, but that you know exactly who your reader is and what they need. And so in your proposal, you're going to describe that reader. So mine might be, she is between 25 and 40. She's being crushed by America's beauty standard for women. She doesn't feel like she measures up. She is college educated. She's married. She got one kid. She goes to church on Sundays and spends 2 hours a day on Instagram. I know who my reader is. Okay. I want you to know your reader, know your reader's need, and meet that need. And when you demonstrate that in your book proposal, you will delight a publisher. Okay, let's talk about platform. I hope this isn't coming as kind of news, as a new idea, but it might be. It might be that this matters so much to publishers. So when I think of people with platform, someone like Michelle Obama, that's platform. I listened to a podcast called Crime Junkie, and the podcaster of Crime Junkie, her name is Ashley Flowers. She published a fiction book maybe about a year and a half ago, and there's no question in my mind that that book probably sold well because she has millions of listeners. She has built a platform. Simone Biles. She had a book with Zondervan, but she kills it on social media. She is just bringing a publisher a big audience. And I'll tell you, I mentioned that I went to that writing conference, and what I heard publishers saying in one voice was this: we don't want to publish someone and like make them famous. We want to work with writers who are already reaching readers. So I really heard it. I came home, and a few months later, my youngest child was marching off to preschool, which gave me 3 magic hours a day. And what I did with my hours was I started pitching articles to print and online publications. Have a spreadsheet. If it was rejected one place, I would send it to the next. That first year, I'll say I pitched 300 articles, which is not that impressive. Again, because if one got rejected, I'd just sort of tweak it, massage it, send it to the next place. But by the end of that year, when I was working on my book proposal, I could demonstrate to a publisher that, you know, I had articles in Today's Christian Woman, Adoption Today, Adoptive Families, Fine Home Building, American Hang Gliding Association. So while I didn't have that huge social media platform, I was able to demonstrate to a publisher, somebody cares what Margot has to say. And I call this capitalizing off of other people's platforms, right? They've built the audience. And if you can write an article for this one, or be a podcast guest over here, that also signals to publishers that you are reaching audiences. Yeah, so there are lots of ways to do it, and having big social media numbers will absolutely impress a publisher. But I just encourage you to be creative, to be finding these ways to build your platform that are not death dealing for you, that they're going to be sustainable for you. Okay, so all the ways it can happen. Mention social media. You could be a blogger. You might be a regular writer for a popular online magazine. You might have 40 speaking gigs a year. Maybe you do have a podcast that people are listening to, discussing, sharing. You might get 200 comments on every Instagram post, or you might get two. Maybe you have self-published a book that has had pretty good sales. A publisher will be interested in your sales. There are all these ways that you can begin to be reaching audiences. And if you want to publish with a traditional publisher, I can't stress enough how much platform matters. But I will say that larger publishers want to see a large platform. They have to, because they are investing more dollars in really big advances. So larger publishers, in the regular world, that's like Penguin, Random House, and in Christian publishing, that's Zondervan, Thomas Nelson, Tyndale, a few others. They need to see, the big publishers need to see a big platform. But what I want to say is that there are also smaller publishers who are going to give smaller advances. And that's the publisher that published my first 3 books. The advance was not huge. But what that means is then they have a little more flexibility to take a chance on an author who's not bringing a huge platform. They have a little more flexibility with that. Okay, so I'm encouraging you to be intentional about finding ways to reach readers. And you're growing your platform as you're finding new ways to do that. Do it in a way that makes sense for you and the way that you are wired. And specifically, right, what I'm thinking is a lot of us writers are introverts. I would so much rather be sitting at my keyboard wiggling my fingers than out there hustling on social media, which I have been trying to do for the last 6 months because a business strategist told me to do it. But this turns out to be a win. Articles turns out to be a win for a lot of writers. Whoo, about to say a hard word. Well, it doesn't have to be. You might consider pausing your push toward publication to take a break to build your platform. I know it's not for everyone. A lot of people are not going to want to do that, but it is a choice that some authors make because they know that it will increase their chances of landing their book with a publisher. They'll put the publishing dream on pause for a minute as they work at building their platform. So let's say if you have already submitted a book proposal to publishers, you can't go back to, and maybe they rejected you because of your platform. You can't go back to them with the same book, but as you build your platform, you can offer it to other agents, to other publishers. When you purpose to build your platform, you make it easier for a publisher to say yes. I want to say, and we're getting, oh, so close. Oh yeah, we're almost done. Then we're gonna have some questions. But today you can't not have an author website. It is your business card. It legitimizes you. And I hear what's kind of silly about that, since any old joker can throw up a website, but it is what it is. It signals whether you are pitching an agent, a publisher, whether you're pitching a magazine, that magazine editor, if you should provide the link, but they're going to Google you and they need to be able to see that you are a communicator. So this isn't like your gardening website with like a tab for, I hope to write a book one day. It really is a website that signals to the world that you are a professional communicator. And I'm going to say it can be really simple. It can be one page. It's your name. It's a professional photograph taken by a real photographer. It's your author bio. I'd love to see you have a real strong tagline signaling what it is that you're writing about, because any visitor to your website, they're distracted. Construction noise, kids, Facebook notifications, they're distracted. I want them to know really quickly when they land at your website what it is that you are communicating about. I'm trying to think of mine. Mine is discover how publishers think, deliver what publishers want. Like they land and they get it. I want it to be real clear on your website what it is that you're communicating. That's good for a start, okay? But as you grow a little bit, when you publish an article, I would love for you to have a link to that on your site so that they can see your writing. And if a few people leave nice comments on that article, or they email you through your website to tell you they appreciate something, I'd love to see you have a few endorsements on your website from people who appreciate your writing. So it can be really simple, but do have an author website. And if this is really your journey, like today, right here, you might just be sort of considering it. If this is really the thing in your heart, I encourage you to get to a writers conference. Brian has hosted such beautiful writing conferences. I feel so privileged to have been to the ones when they were happening live and in person. But as you know, today, there are also going to be conferences that happen virtually. I can't tell you how valuable it is. I was just at this conference in the Blue Ridge Mountains here in beautiful North Carolina. And woo, I mean, what the connections you're making at lunch and dinner tables, and the way you're growing in your craft, the connections you're making with publishers and agents. Ooh, writers conferences are fantastic. And I don't consider myself a conference junkie at all, but there really is just so much value if you want to publish with a traditional publisher. Here's the last thing I'm going to say. As I am coaching writers, until maybe like 9 months ago, I would always kind of be steering them in the direction of a traditional publisher and not towards self-publishing. And that's because I know how hard it is to sell books. That's the only reason. Like no shade, because so many people have done well with self-publishing. Many have not, but I know how hard it is to sell books. And so I want them to go in the direction of a traditional publisher. But I'm just going to say, I had a real change in my mindset about 9 months ago because I began to see how having a book is a tool for some communicators. And I think the woman that I was working with, she might have been some sort of a therapist, a counselor, and she was having opportunities to get these speaking gigs at conferences. And so for her to invest dollars in Margot, kind of as a coach to help her get her book together, and then the dollars that it takes to hire a designer to design a beautiful color. Don't you dare try and design your own book cover. My daughter's a graphic designer. I was an art major. Nope. You hire a professional for the cover, for the interior. You're putting your dollars into it because it's a tool. If you have this other purpose, like speaking, you have a podcast, whatever it is. So all this to say is, and if you have questions about the benefits of a traditional publisher versus self-publishing, we can talk about that. But there's so much value that traditional publishers bring because of their expertise. But I also see how some communicators could choose to go the self-publishing route, knowing that the value of that book cannot be measured in book sales because it is so hard to sell books, but there's still a value for you as a communicator, so it's worth investing in. I'm going to pause, and I'd love to hear what some of your questions might be.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Marco. Incredibly important and valuable information as always. Let me remind everyone that this is being recorded. It'll just be available, on the Find Your Next Calling website and YouTube, but it will be public. So I think but feel free to raise your hand in the Zoom portal or unmute your microphone or
I see Letitia's hand. I'd love to hear
Letitia's
her
got
question.
her hand up. So Letitia, please go ahead.
Grand Rising, everyone. I'm interested in what are the components you think should be in an author's website. I believe I have a website up, but I don't know if it's specific to an author's website.
Okay. I'm so glad that you asked. And here's the 5 things I want to see on your website. And the first is the who. That's your name, the picture, and author bio. We got to make sure I can remember this. The who, the what is what you're communicating to the world so that I can figure it out pretty quickly when I visit your website. The where is where I can find your writing online. If you've spoken, I can see where you've spoken before. That's the where. The why is why I should trust you, why you should be trusted, why you're legit. And that's where if you can get a few of those endorsements. I mean, it'd be great if you can get an endorsement from some big name, big platform person, but even if not, you can get endorsements from readers. And then the final is just the how I can get in touch with you, contact page. But if you have those 5 things, I would say that your website is doing its job.
Thank you. I don't know if there's a way that you could look at it, if you can see it.
You know what? If you go to Margot's website and contact me, I'd be willing to take a peek for you. So contact me through margotstarbuck.com and I'll take a peek.
Thank you.
Thanks, Letitia. Who's next?
Hi, Margot. And Brian, is my sound working or no?
Yes, you sound wonderful, Ruth. Thank you.
It's because I became a tech wizard. So glad it works.
Good for you.
Awesome.
Margot, I met you forever ago at first time I met you was at Kelvin at one of the writing things. So here's my question.
Yeah.
Some folks just do their own writing. They write, they die. It was beautiful, right? Mary Oliver is Mary Oliver. And then and even Rachel, even though she had a movement, she was just Rachel. The flip side of that is somebody like Glennon, who monastery, and I'm not sure she intended to start a movement, but they've created a movement. So even though it's one person's name on a book, even with some of the folks who've created movements, even if they get hit by the proverbial bus, the movement still exists. So do you have any reflection on that in terms of how to present yourself? Does that make sense? And why I'm asking the question?
I might need a little, like, it feels so big. It feels so big. I'm used to working with people who like will just be so happy if they see their name on the front of a book. But say something to me more about the movement. Help me understand what you're after.
The people's name that are coming to mind. So Fannie Lou Hamer was essential to the civil rights movement. And a lot of Ella Baker was. Most people don't know these women's names because they were so clear it was about the movement. Same with Jim Lawson. There would not have been a Dr. King in connection with Gandhi if it had not been for Reverend James Lawson, who's a Methodist minister. Unless you teach and live this stuff for decades like I do, most people don't know these names. But the movement continued even though people don't know their names. And so if we're inviting people to look at what it is to be woman or American differently, if we're inviting people to look at how we bastardized scripture
Come on.
for a long time, and then give people keys to know, really, you can invite your trans nephew to Thanksgiving and not only still have God like you, but, maybe you're just doing basic Jesus work. So I think that there are a lot of people that know that it's a messy world. They know something smells, like when you have a nasty smell in your fridge, but you don't know that it was lemon or tuna that got stuck behind and it's all green and nasty. And so you got to look for it. So you know something smells, but you don't know what it is. And so that's sort of what I'm addressing. Rachel did not, I met her, 2000, I think Monkeytown was like 2010 at Calvin. I think you were there too. And, she was a sweet little thing who was just really shy. And so I got to hang out because nobody else was talking to her. And she didn't intend to create a movement, but once she had the courage to say what many people didn't, because she came out and was courageous before a lot of people were. And she had, Rachel's Rachel. So she created a movement without really necessarily intending to. I think some of the conferences that she did has sort of carried the movement, but I guess so that's my thinking and my wondering. I don't know if that makes sense.
And I'm curious, I need you to help me connect it to a book. Do you have a book in you? Is that what you're wondering about?
Margot, let me step in just and try to help a little bit. A lot of the things we talk about in Find Your Next Calling is finding your purpose.
Yeah.
What do you want to be known for? Right? You can't be known for Brian Elaine, right? Who cares who Brian Elaine is? But maybe you can be known for writers' conferences, or maybe you can be known for publishing in color, or maybe you can be known for some other purpose of how you're trying to, as you said, serve the reader. So I've encouraged people to think a lot about, what's their purpose? Why should I care? If I'm, as you said, going to their website and trying to check out who this person is, I want to know what their purpose is, what whether you call it a movement or whether you call it whatever. So I think it's that kind of notion.
What Brian said.
What Brian said, yes. I do love that you mentioned trans nephew. In the last few weeks, I had the occasion to ask my brother's oldest, are you my nephew or are you my niece? But no, you're exactly right. I think I'm hearing your passion. Is there can you make it more I will say this is piggybacking on Brian too, is I do think your calling is to do the thing that only you can do, say the thing that only you can say. So when I'm coaching writers and they're, pitching a book like Live Your Purpose or Lose Weight by Eating Less, I know that a publisher can't say yes because that's already been done. But then the more we hone in, and I find myself so curious about the particular experiences that you have had that have convinced you, the values, and you can imagine there are folks that are only going to be able to hear it from you because of the uniqueness of how you've been designed and how you have been influenced and what your gifts are and how you will articulate it. So boy, I just feel like the best I can do is just like, yeah, to encourage you to keep taking the next step, because there is such a particularity of what you will say and how you will say it, both that the movement needs, but also very specific readers need as well. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Ellen, did you have a question?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Brian. It's good to see you again.
You too.
And that you got through your journey the way you did. So lovely. Margot, when I saw you were speaking, I'm like, oh, that's about the fourth time I've seen her name in 2 months. Maybe I should, your name, at various conferences. So it's a pleasure to meet you. I've gotten stuck at the book proposal portion. What I've done is, well, I have an author's website. I have written the book. I have had it go through any number of beta readers. So I would say the book, the problem is capturing the essence of it. So how is it that a former federal mob prosecutor in New York City ended up being a trauma chaplain, meeting people on the worst days of their lives? So that's the book, but it's even a longer arc. It's the book I was intending to write in the book. So I think where I'm having a hard time, I would say that I have I have an email list, do some blogs, but it's that marketing thing, like that you just did so well on a number of things. I think because the book is in some ways about me, but not about me, it's been hard for me to get the marketing language around it. The book really tells a story of how the person, that would be me, went from a childhood of abuse, managed to become a very successful federal prosecutor, but then just took a turn in life, adopted a child, we have that, and found herself saved almost by the grace of faith. But not that I am, but I also went out. I think what's distinct about this is people end the story there, right? But I went out and went in a way to discover grace with other people, right? That's what a chaplain does. So maybe I need to contact you, but I think sometimes it's hard to get the pitch when you've been so deep into the granular of the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm not seeing, I feel like we just lost someone. And before we launched here, he was sharing how I think he's writing memoir, writing a story.
Oh, okay.
And he had already heard that this is a hard sell to publishers.
Oh, yeah.
And part of me was kind of glad that somebody else has said it. I don't have to be the first to say it.
No, I know.
Publishers.
Brian told me the first time I met him.
Okay, good. Brian's got your back. Publishers aren't buying it as much. And so I feel like there are different kind of approaches, strategies. Oh, but I also want to applaud you for having beta readers and receiving their feedback. That is fantastic. My literary agent suggests, he calls it memoir with a message. And it's a little different beast than just straight memoir. But if we're talking about, getting your book into the world or it not making it, into the hands of readers, it might be worth considering. And that is right. I know you have got these fascinating stories, and then maybe you lead each chapter with those. And at some point you pivot to look at the reader and their experience and name their need. And maybe they experience this, maybe it's something different, what it means for them. And the writer who I have seen, who I saw just do a great job of this, her career was different than yours. It was Hollywood stunt woman, one of Hollywood's first stunt women, until her, the stunts, I didn't realize this, were all men with wigs and dresses. So like you, I suspect, she has these fabulous stories But what she does, and she tells them at the end of each chapter, she names a lesson that she learned from that experience and kind of pivots and talks directly to the reader, about their need. And so I would call that memoir with a message. And as you know, every single reader is asking the question, what's in it for me? And I think my concern, a publisher's concern, would be like, as they're reading your proposal, like what's in it for this reader? Because it's no small thing for I was going to say a reader to pull out her wallet and take out dollars, but no, she's just her credit card. That's no small thing. So that's the question that the publisher is asking of your book. And so even though it is your story, everything you want to be doing in that proposal in a persuasive way is finding ways to make it about the reader and the value and the benefit that they will get from reading this book. And I would also encourage you to consider, where might you pitch and publish an article about your experience, like like we could go big, like the Atlantic, New York Times. Easier said than done, but I would encourage you. I've got it in front of me. I have got this book called Writer's Market, and there's just going to list, a lot of publications where you can see what they're looking for. There's also like a Christian Writer's Market book. I just think that is just another way that you can signal to a publisher that there's something sticky here. And when you're pitching any of these articles, y'all are pitching, you're saying to yourself, who are the readers who are already showing up at this platform? Because if I serve them, this article is more likely to get pitched. So I hope it doesn't.
Right. And you've pointed out one of the difficulties. That was sort of more of a elevator pitch thing, but the book is, what I've resisted is giving a lesson, because I kind of more fall in what I'm calling the emerging Kate Bowler line of things. Like, there's not one answer to things. Like, I can't tell you, so do X. But underlying the book is really this theme about trauma-informed care, how hospitals are not very trauma-informed. The second half of the book is both a critique of hospitals and the way we treat individuals, and the power of presence. So there are those lessons in there. They're not as crisp as I think. I suspect I'm not going to do lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I know where you're going, and I know they call them hybrid.
But okay, what I'm imagining is that to go from prosecutor to chaplain, that you had to be trained in some way, and it might be just as simple as turning to the reader and like, what is it, this thing that you're feeling called to that you might need to prepare yourself for in some way? And I know it might feel awful and trivializing and horrible to you, but just trying to think of ways to make those connections with your reader.
I think I can make it a little crisper. And interestingly enough, Monkfish has just published what they are actually calling a spiritual memoir on the cover of the book, and it's called For Love of the Broken Body by it's a nun who has a podcast. She talks about spending years trying to get someone to do it, but she has Julia Walsh.
Okay.
And I've read it, and I just thought that was interesting, because there are smaller publishers who might be changing their mind and going out on that limb a little bit. So you might look it up.
The only thing I would say,
smaller publishers, that's going to be the word. Go ahead, Brian.
That's certainly true, but the only thing I would say is, like, Julia Walsh has already got a name. She's already pretty well known. I mean, Michelle Obama can write a memoir and people are going to buy it, right? Anybody that has a big name can write a memoir. That's not a problem. It's for those of us that don't have a big name where you need more.
I suspect she has a big name now, because when she was first rejected, she decided to do a podcast. So now she's well known. So no, and I just want to say, I just think that I think language is so important, right? And what you're saying about how we capture, because some people may have a unique take, but don't know how to capture it in that crisp form that is needed to convey it so quickly and so whatever. But But if you mean by Julie Walsh is known that the rest of us can't write or get it published, not by the big five, but something, I think that would be a little too defeatist for sort of many of us who are writing.
And I'm just gonna say, I
Right.
feel like the lesson from her story was that she did do that next step, the hard work of the podcast. Like, to her credit, good for her.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't deny it. And I kind of stopped also because I'm trying to figure out ways to do more of that. I'll be speaking at a conference next week and different things. So I've decided, even if you independently publish, you need to have people who buy your books one way or the other. So I agree with that, but I appreciate your suggestions a lot. Thank you.
Pleasure. Letitia, did you have another question? Or maybe not. Maybe that was the old hand.
No, it's interesting because I am doing a memoir also, and apparently you have given me a title of memoir with a purpose. It's my memoir, and it's about child abuse, child sexual assault, and domestic violence. I'm thinking that it's a young adult book because I'm looking at who I would like to read it. I would like a young adult to read it because these are the things that they may go through that they don't talk about to somebody. I'm also crafting it as a peer read. So you're not reading this alone because child abuse, child sexual assault, and domestic violence are very hard topics. So I'm wondering, I was just at a manuscript wish list. They have an academy, and I did their courses and trying to figure out exactly the genre because, like I said, it's a young adult. And then they said it was to be a young adult, the format is 60 to 80,000 words. It's about 30 stories that I have in this particular volume because I'm thinking it's a series, and that each, I would say maybe 80% of the stories in the first volume have a picture in front and in back. Is that something that is unique in a YA book? Because you said something neat, something fresh, something different.
Did you say a picture? What do you mean by picture?
Yes, I have vintage pictures. So it's my life. So I would have the picture of that particular age.
Yep. I have a concern that if a publisher is just looking at your book proposal that includes that, all the publisher is seeing is dollar signs. And again, if you're Michelle Obama, they're going to spring for the pictures. But for normal people, I think I'd caution you. But young adults, 60, 80,000 words, it's that higher word count, like 80,000, makes me think we're talking about fiction, but this really isn't. You're writing this as your journey, right? As memoir?
Right. Because
Okay.
basically, when one of the exercises was to do a query and the first page. So I did the query, and it was my book right now. The first volume is 19,500 in words. And then, like I said, I have the picture there, and you have how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I have the 1,000 words to the picture.
Say something about that word count, 19,000?
500.
Okay, that's where you are now?
Yes.
Okay, because I definitely, in your book proposal, I definitely want you to name the word count as what they want to see. And I would always think for trade nonfiction, I would think it would be 60K, but if they said 60 to 80, definitely make it what they want to see.
The other suggestion was to go to literary magazines and to have them sorted out. Because what I do now, I was in an entrepreneurial program with Westchester County, how to get this book to market. So one of the things I said, well, I would have to have a launch. So what I've been doing is pilots. So I piloted my parts of my book in New York, South Carolina, Texas, Westchester County. I've gotten those reviews from the people. I've had 10 beta readers. Now I have a group that we meet and go through all what the beta readers said. So I finished that first part. So I'm up to second draft now. And that's going to my in-house editor before I go to do my third manuscript. I went to Yale Writers Group last year, and I got some input from that. So now we're going to go over that input to make the third draft.
This makes my heart so happy that you are getting and integrating this feedback. It's just so smart. It's so smart. Yeah.
As I started, like when I was in writing for you, publishing in color last year, and they were talking about the importance of having the website. It was like a week before that I started my website. I started by social media. So I have, from the very first that I started even going to classes to now, I'm up to 200, but I'm an old lady. So
You keep going. You keep going. Oh.
Good, good. Well,
and I did contact you, and I gave you my my website. I went to your website, so you have that for me.
yeah, I mean, one of the things I wanted to make sure everyone knows, I mean, Margot offers writer coaching and consulting services. And what else do you do, Margot?
Yeah, mostly I'm transactional. So it's review your book proposal. And it's, if you do self-publish, I'm a developmental editor. So you'll need other layers of editing, like copy editing, proofreading.
Yes.
But I'm going to give you that first feedback for somebody who's self-publishing.
Okay, good, good.
Because I haven't decided that yet. I'm going through the courses to try to figure out if that's the way I want to go and put some more work on top of my head, or go to.
Exactly.
My cousin just published her book, and she's going on her tours. And it's interesting that we're both into mental health, because people look at child abuse. They don't think about the mental health issues that it created. It is a mental health issue.
You're doing all the right things. You really are.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I started right here with publishing in color.
Yay.
Yes.
My pastor, and it was funny, but I'm an elder for Presbyterian Church USA as well. So we're all in the word.
Awesome.
Good. Well, I think we've reached our hour, and I want to respect everyone's time. Margot, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's always great to hear your expertise and words of wisdom, and I know everyone will really benefit for that. So thank you so much, and thanks everyone for joining us.
All right. Take care,
Thank you
y'all.
for having us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.